Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us here at your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger. We're sports talking it up. We're going to be bringing you our top rated offenses for this 2020 past season. And I am once again your host, the Viking Donkey, joined by the one and only Mutant Gingy.
Mutant Gingy in the house. What's up, Steeler Nation? What's up, football lovers, sports lovers, Jack and Janet, and all good people listening everywhere?
So, Gingy, lots of Steeler transactions this week. I'm not sure if any of them were really good, but there's some, I guess, people we should talk about maybe.
I'll start with, I think the biggest, obviously, one is Tyson Alualu doing a 180 on the Jacksonville Jaguars and deciding to stay put.
I guess COVID owed us one for the schedule hooplas last year, and it gave us Tyson Alualu.
That's a huge hole that doesn't need to be filled. No, don't. It's a huge hole,
That's
literally and figuratively.
Yep, good depth there. Good starting nose for us. I was wondering how we were going to fill that spot, and obviously bringing him back was a good one. We also signed a couple guys who maybe are interesting names going forward. I mean, Kalen Balaj is a guy who's never, or as Gingy likes to call him, ballage, which
Big
maybe he'll
ballage.
ball
Big
out.
Kalen ballage. Let's go.
Maybe he'll ball out, but I mean, he's a guy who has done literally nothing to this point of his NFL career. Whether or not he will in the future, I guess the Steelers are hoping so. But looks more like a depth filler, more like a Trey Edmonds type fill in. To me, though, there was a more interesting pickup, and it's a guy who was originally a nose tackle in college, got signed as an undrafted guy there, and then moved to the offensive line. The Steelers have had experience with moving defensive guys to the offensive line, and it's worked decently well the past with Villanueva. And of course, I'm talking about Rashad Coward, which, by the way, what a
Yeah.
terrible name. But a dude who started some games in Chicago, but didn't even get tendered a contract. So I mean, when you're on a team that has a bad line, you don't get tendered a contract. That's a scary thing. But people say he has that tenacity about him, and he wants to be a mauler. And well, the Steelers need some maulers on that line if we're going
Need
to be
some
running the
push.
football, right?
Need some push real bad, donkey.
Yeah, for sure. I think they also signed a couple of, if they make the team, call me the most surprised person in the world. Guys like Jarvis Miller, a linebacker who transferred away from Penn State because he never played there. Tyler Simmons, some guy who never really caught the ball. And Matthew Sexton, some dude who played at Eastern Michigan and is supposedly really, really fast. Any of these names at all intrigue you?
No.
Just your
Long and
typical
short of it.
roster fillers is what they feel like, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see a Penn State guy in there, but really overall, I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to see them on the field.
If we're gonna shorten the preseason, probably not much at all. Which, by the way, Gingy, I know there's something you want to talk about in terms of season length, right?
Oh boy, we have game number 17, and lucky Pittsburgh Steelers get to see Russell Wilson in their extra game this year. Isn't that just lovely, donkey?
Dude, our schedule is already shitty tough. The last thing that we needed was to add another good team on the schedule. So what do we get? We get to add Seattle, which if Russell Wilson is still there, man, are you serious? Also, the way they added this 17th game to me sucks because it kills schedule integrity. Like now schedules are going to be so much more lopsided for lower teams compared to upper teams. I don't think it builds a fair scheduling. I know the NFL wants diversity, so maybe that's what this is all about is actually giving those lower teams a better chance to make the jump because they'll play more lower teams. But I'm not a fan of it. The NFL's always been 16 games. Not only that now, we already were breaking all the records. Now the NFL record book is going to be held by nothing but guys who've played 17 games.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, donkey. That's quite possibly true, but I really think it comes down to generation ad revenue.
It comes down to money, money, money.
Extra game on
Money.
extra TV day.
I
Another
mean,
3 hours worth of advertisements everywhere in North
let's
America.
push the season back another week. I already lose interest half the time through. Can you imagine being the fan of a team that's losing, dude? Like, yeah, I want to go watch them play another game. And I have one big question here. The NFL, for multiple years, has stated they really care about player safety.
Mm.
What is the most likely scenario for a player to get hurt?
Playing on a short
Playing in
week
a
or playing
football
an
game,
extra
right?
game.
Playing another football game. So you know how we're going to fix the issue of we care about player safety, and it's not just about dollar bills? We're going to add another week, and then when the CBA comes up, we're going to add another week because we care about the safety of our players. Bro, please.
I'm not sure how the players union is okay with that.
You wave in front of them another $100 million onto the salary cap, you know what they're going to say?
Yeah, that's a pretty big boost, though.
Yeah, but you add another game, you have to think that adds another 16th to the revenue. That's going to increase the cap by another 16% every time. They add another team to the playoffs. That's another playoff game. That's even more revenue. These TV contracts are getting out of sorts. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's no longer about football integrity. It's no longer about putting out great products. It's about making dollar bills. And that is what it is. I mean,
they are doing it quite well, though.
Yeah, they are. There's no doubt that they're doing it really, really good. But I'm personally just not. What are these robots doing? I'm personally just not a fan of adding another game because I don't like to see the stats that are going to go crazy. I don't want to see just the integrity loss of competitive schedules. Like before, to me, it wasn't bad because the only 2 games were different between every team in a division. Only 2 games were different that you didn't play the same teams because you would play the team that finished the same rank as you in the 2 divisions in your conference that you're not playing the whole division of, right? So in terms of competitive integrity, it's really, really close. Now you're adding another game that breaks away from competitive integrity. I don't know how they're going to do it with the 18-game schedule, but that definitely seems like where we're going. Almost no doubt now it's going to an 18-game schedule. And I'm actually in a part of Fallout I have never been since the update. This is kind of cool, everybody. It's the first time exploring it. But yeah, Gingy, what's your final thought on Week 17 being Week 17 of games, not end of the season?
Get hyped up for Russell Wilson, everybody. Like I said, I don't know how it's gonna factor in. With a veteran quarterback, it's pretty scary to continue to add games on the schedule.
Especially one with a big injury history.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. And I didn't see exactly how that on the calendar plays out, Donkey.
I believe this is why they're selling it. But we're going to get rid of preseason games, so you guys actually don't play the same. Or you'll play this or less games. I think isn't they're getting rid of 1 or 2 preseason games to add it. And then, yeah, because starters play a lot during the preseason. Yep, that's a thing. All taking away preseason games does is screw over these fringe roster guys because now they're not going to have tape to show everybody. This is like, if you're a fringe roster guy, this is the worst thing that could happen for you. Those guys just trying to make it, just trying to get on a team. You're not going to be able to have the tape out there now because there's not as many games. I mean, I guess at least there'll be some preseason this year, hopefully, so at least those guys can put out a little bit of tape.
Yeah, hopefully. Some states are opening up full stadiums, I hear, Donkey.
Yeah, for sure they are. Some states are having every sporting event run away from them. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the world today. I mean, I just saw Gonzaga hit a huge buzzer beater to go and beat UCLA in one of the better games I've seen. To be fair, I've watched a total of 8 college basketball games this year because basketball no longer is fun to me because I always loved defensive basketball. Like, I grew up a big fan of, like, the Pacers with the Bash Brothers and Troy. And then I loved Pitt basketball, which is always defensive-based. I loved Big East basketball when it was there. And now this basketball stuff's just really, really offensive, so I didn't watch much. But this game was awesome. If anyone gets a chance to rewatch it, go ahead because it was totally worth the watch, man. It was a good basketball game. But we're
Hey,
not here to talk about that.
the
We're
bracket
here to
lives and
talk
dies with
about.
Gonzaga right now.
Well, you got a 50-50 chance, so that's good for you. We're here to talk about, and what the people want to know, Gingy, is our offensive power rankings. That's what we went out and gave people the premise was going to happen this week, and sure enough, that is what is going to be given to the people. I'm going to start walking towards the Scorch Beast over here. And this week, I wanted to do it a little different. I didn't want my personal take. I wanted to develop something because I'm huge into statistics. I'm huge into making those little algorithms to come up with things. So I wanted to make my own stat that would rank these people in a power index. This would be a thing that included things like points above expected points, red zone efficiency, high scoring games. In this case, I use 35 plus points. What it will end up being is probably the top 20 or 15% of football games, how many of those you had. And then low scoring games, which will be vice versa. But for this exercise, I use the bottom scoring 20 points or less games. I also include things like turnover ratio for the offenses and a little fun score to punt one, which is one of my favorite stats, is your average points to punt type of deal. And first downs to punt. I kind of mix those in for a little bit. So mine is a pure algorithm that I 100% stand behind, and that's my power ranking. And Gingy, today, your power ranking goes purely up against the computer.
Oh wow!
So, what do you think about this?
The Meta. It's the Meta build that you just got, Donkey. I'm intimidated, but I stand by my picks. I've got my 5 here as well. They are not nearly as well coordinated as Donkey's statistically backed teams, but you know what? I've got a good feeling about it.
So then, let's go ahead, Gingy. Bring me in at number 5.
Number 5. These fringe teams here, Donkey. This whole 6, I'm thinking 8, 7, 6, 5 are gonna be a toss-up.
Yeah,
Lands here at number 5 for me. The Tennessee Titans.
Ooh, nice pick there.
Hey.
You will see them later, and I will talk about them later. But what's up with you there, Gingy?
Balanced overall offense. Obviously, they've got the king, Derrick Henry, and he is a force to be reckoned with in the backfield. Tannehill being a mid-range guy, coming up and coming. He's doing a lot better on that offense, and he's got some big weapons in A.J. Brown out there. And that for me lands them at number 5 overall.
A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and Jonnu Smith all looking like they got built in a laboratory, bro. My God, is their receiving core just genetic freaks, dude. And I mean that in the most complimentary way you can give it. It's those dudes balling. Coming in at number 5, the first team making an appearance on your Donk Nation Daily Dose Power Index, the Seattle Seahawks. The Steelers' Week 17 opponent this year.
Oh boy.
The Seahawks come in like they were what, 4th or 5th, they were 7th in the league in points, I think. And what really helped them was their points above average, though, was actually really good. I think 4th best in points above average. And red zone efficiency, they killed it. And they also had a lot of explosive games. While they did turn the ball over, and they did have quite a few games that weren't explosive, the fact that that team had so much explosiveness behind Russell Wilson having big games is the reason why an offense where, really, if you don't know who DK Metcalf is, what are you doing? But anyway, an offense led by Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, get to make it to number 5 on the power index because they were explosive, and you couldn't really stop them in the red zone. What was their red zone? I think their red zone efficiency was 73% or something like that in terms of touchdowns. Red zone TD percentage or something like that. Red zone scores, they were nuts.
Beautiful, Donkey. Another balanced team. You got the airstrike with Metcalf, and Chris Carson at running back is nothing to shake your head at.
True that. All right, Gingy. Number 4
is coming in at number 4. New Orleans Saints.
Chalk it up. We have an agreement.
Looking at
Nation Power Index number 4, New Orleans Saints. Gingy, take it away.
I'm looking at another well-balanced team. Alvin Kamara out of the backfield, catching balls, running balls. 5th overall in points, I believe, in 2020. And
Correct.
Really continued to what pushed them up to number 4 for me is continued to produce amongst ongoing injuries to their star players throughout the year. Minus Drew Brees, minus Michael Thomas, things of those things, and continuing to produce at that level puts them definitely at number 4 for me.
New Orleans, a team that wasn't huge in the points above or expected ratio, but this shows you why they were here. It was their consistency. They had the lowest terms of bad offensive games. They were tied with Green Bay for the best percentage of bad games, which means they almost had no really 20-point or below games. I think they had one all year. They also had a pretty good turnover ratio and a great red zone scoring percentage for the fact that you can run the ball helps out a lot there. But yeah, everything you said I agree with. That team did so well overcoming so many injuries. And honestly, they ran 3 quarterbacks out there and they all threw touchdowns, it felt like. That's not an easy thing to do. And hey, there's a reason Sean Payton's considered one of those smart offensive guys, right?
Yeah, I agree. Puts together a good team. Can attack you from many different angles. Can really kind of mold his team week to week to attack the defense's weaknesses.
Yeah, for sure. So that brings us to number 3. First one to give themselves a stand on the podium.
Number 3 overall, the Buffalo Bills for me, Donkey.
Ooh. So, this is a fun one for me. Buffalo on my original one before I included turnovers and punt ratio would have been 4th. But I add those and they dropped all the way down to 6. So, give me your reasoning.
I have 2nd in points and 2nd in yards in the league. Overall,
definitely.
I do see some inconsistency in Josh Allen. One thing I do know, they had some explode games and they had some dud games. So that kind of skews overall averages and such. But I'm thinking in terms of deep strike attack, quick strike attack. Allen to Stephon Diggs is one of the scariest combos in the NFL right now, Donkey.
They're definitely explosive. They definitely have lots of points. What ended up killing them was, this is the beta for the Donk Nation Daily Dose Power Index, but when the turnovers got added, I only did the top 10 teams because I didn't have enough time to put in all 32 yet. And I will, don't worry. You will hear the updated revision when I get it. But they were the 9th out of 10 in terms of turnovers. Then that's just what killed them, was their offense just turned the ball over too much. They had too many games where they weren't scoring or where they had low scoring. I mean, there were just too many things that held them back from making the list, although they would have made the original list before turnovers got added to it. So, take that with a grain of salt. They clearly are a good offense. There's no doubt about it. Stephon Diggs, man, what a trade that was. Like, that's the trade you need to go out and make. You can get yourself a playmaker like that. And
trade
he was just killing it there.
Trade of the year right there.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely like probably the biggest pickup in what? I don't know. Who would have been a bigger pickup in the last few years? I don't even know who you could go to there, because no one just transformed a team as well as he did, as quick as he did. That was great pickup. I like your number 3, but the Donk Nation Daily Dose Power Index has to disagree with you, and we have to put your Tennessee Titans, which you talked about earlier, so we don't have to get into why they're here in terms of player personnel. Derrick Henry.
Right.
But I want to bring up some secondary things. Red zone percentage, they were the second best in the top 10 teams. In terms of games of 35 points or more, they had the second most the second most of them in their percentage out there. Really, the only thing Tennessee was bad at, because they were really good at turnovers too, because they didn't turn the ball over, they also had a lot of games under 20 points for the Titans. Like, that's really the only thing that drug them down on the power index was they just had too many games where they didn't put up enough points. Like, if you're going to be a great offense, you can't get shut down, essentially, is what the index was telling me. But we already talked about them enough. Let's get on to number 2.
Number 2 in the NFL for the Gingy, the Green Bay Packers.
Oh! Tell me why.
My stats say number 1 in points overall. And in my opinion, probably the number 1 quarterback in the NFL is your reigning NFL MVP at this point. The offense is dangerous with him and Davante Adams, and now with an up-and-comer like Aaron Jones, and you have
Jones
a running
and
game.
Williams together last year.
Boy. You have a running game behind an arm like that one. It is undeniable that is a force to be reckoned with. Number 2 overall.
I got to bite my tongue a little bit on that team. You remember earlier in the year, I called someone out because he was talking a lot of talk for a dude who hadn't put up a lot of put up. That was Davante Adams. And man, did he come out and ball this year. I was wrong on that one. That kid came and showed why he was talking. He talked before he walked, but his walk backed up his talk. So I have a little bit of disagreements, and you'll see why here in a minute on who your number 2 team is. But I have a feeling my number 2 team might be twisting into your number 1 team. And is that the case with Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Or did they miss your list?
Oh. They missed my list.
Wow. All right. Well, my number 2 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and here's why. In terms of points allowed, by the way, my number 1 team was number 1 in every category except for this one, or tied for number 1 in the category except for points above expected average. So that's comparing what a team gives up to what you put against them. And the team that was the best at outscoring what the opponents give up was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That team got better as time went on. They just kept scoring more and more points. And towards the end of the year, they were a team you couldn't stop. They were a team that's led by the greatest player to ever play football, Tom Brady, and they just kept getting better. They have Leonard Fournette starting to step up. They have Gronkowski. They have Cameron Brate. They have a pretty good offensive line that even through losing 2 or 3 starters kept pushing. Is it Tristan Wirfs, the guy they have at tackle? I don't remember who it is. I might have the wrong guy, but that dude's a freak. And then you add to that already record holder for most 1,000-yard season to start a career in Mike Evans. You add a huge commodity like Chris Godwin, and then you have a guy like little Scotty Miller who doesn't even get to play much, but every time he does, he scores a touchdown, as I told you in a previous podcast. And you add Antonio Brown. That offense was just unstoppable. That offense is a big part of why they won the Super Bowl. They were mixed with a good defense, but that offense was on the power index, number 2. Which brings us to number 1, and I'm going to have a firm disagreement here, I have a feeling, Gingy.
Number 1 offense overall, Kansas City Chiefs.
Nope.
Most
but hit me with it.
Playmaker and Tyreek Hill. Overall, one of the number 1 explosive playmaker in terms of quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Best tight end in the league. A balanced running attack. Just can score at will.
Bad at running the football. What was it? 6th in the league in terms of points. If you put it into points expected above average, they're only 7th. Red zone percentage, they're only 8th out of the top 10 teams, and that's only ranking top 10 teams. They were only 7th in terms of explosive games. They were 4th when it came to low-scoring games. just the consistency wasn't there for that team. And I mean, yeah, the pieces are pretty, but when you put the puzzle together, their offensive line was bad. They turned the ball over more than the teams that should be put above them. They didn't score what they were. Sure, they ended up making it to the Super Bowl, but that offense was not what it was last year. The 2019 Chiefs were something. This 2020 Chiefs were I mean, they weren't a scary, huge force. I mean, the team that got held to the least amount of points by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers all year was your Kansas City Chiefs team. They just weren't the same team. There was something missing. It was probably the fact that Patrick Mahomes was running for his life because that offensive line couldn't protect him. I mean, if you want to judge off potential, this team probably has potential to be one of the best. But if you're judging just purely off stats, they have honestly, probably no statistical bearing to even be a top 5 team, Gingy. My opinion. And based off power index telling me what's what.
So did their defense get them 13-3 then?
They were 13-3. I don't argue with that, but then are we going to say that Green Bay has to be the best offense, Gingy? Team was better, and it was clearly led by its offense. And by the way, Kansas City did come in with like the 12th best scoring defense, and that got better as the season went on. I think if you take outside of from week 6 on, Kansas City was a top 7 defense. So yes, their defense mixed with their offense helped a lot. And that's weird to say because no one even respects Kansas City's defense, but they really did come out to play. Honestly, when I do the power index defense ratio, they might be a team that slides in there. So, But
I like your index, Donkey.
You just look at the stats. It's just I don't mind that. I see what you're saying there, and this is your thing is purely based off of how you feel, man. And you look at that team. I totally agree with you. The playmakers, the explosive positions are great. The biggest problem they had, man, was that line was just bad. And if you take when Edwards and Claire got hurt or whatever, that team's running game disappeared. They couldn't run the football once he got hurt. But anyway, now
one more thing. You got
it. Last word to Gingy.
I agree with your points but like the Kansas City overall number 1 offense thing. I made a point last week when we had another disagreement in defenses when I put the Pittsburgh Steelers top 5 in defense with the splash plays and the overall ability to change the game. Mm-hmm. I used the same type of logic and philosophy here when putting Kansas City at their position.
That makes sense. No disagreement here.
Made for TV offense.
Yeah, them in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay, dude. Aaron Rodgers with Hail Marys is the prettiest thing I've ever seen.
But I apologize. I just wanted to add that in. Let's get to number 1 on
no need to
Power
apologize,
Index.
Dude. That's the Donk Nation Daily Dose Power Index. We got to get the name all catchy so people actually want to hear about it. But number 1 is a team that when I did this was number 1 in every category except points above expected. And that is the Green Bay Packers. They came in with the best red zone offense, the most games with 35 plus points, the fewest games with 20 points or less, the fewest amount of turnovers. So what this index does is it essentially gives a number value, and you want to have the lowest number value, right? Their number value was 7. And the closest team to them's number value was 17. In terms of the index, in terms of the stats, this team was everything you wanted. Not only that, they were the top scoring offense. They were led by the MVP in Aaron Rodgers. They were led by arguably the best receiver this year in Devontae Adams. They had huge play potentials from guys like Valdes-Scantling when he could catch the football. They had a 2-back running system that just could take over a football game. They were just the type of team that no matter how you wanted to let them beat you, they would beat you that way. There is something to be said about that. They are probably the team that gave Tampa Bay the toughest challenge in the playoffs, although no one really seemed to give Tampa Bay a tough challenge in the playoffs. The first number 1 ever given out by Donk Nation Daily Dose Power Index is your Green Bay Packers. And I when I saw the numbers, I was like, well, I thought I was going to put them there anyway, and the numbers just put them there by a bigger margin than I could have ever.
I don't disagree with the pick. I like them a lot. Good choice.
So, everybody out there, everybody part of Donk Nation, all the Jackson Jennets, go ahead. Tell us what you think of this power index, what you think of Gingy's personal picks, what you think of our comparison. Hell, put out your top fives. If we get enough, we'll do a little community comparison next week. But
Sweet, let's do it.
as far as I know, Gingy, next week, maybe we should talk about, and if I can get the ratings done in time, the top 5 overall teams from your 2020 season. That'd be a fun one to tease the people with. I like that.
I'm ready.
Anyway, I think it's that time for a segment I think I forgot last week, but I'm not sure. And that is your shout-outs. Gingy, hit them up.
Dang, Donkey dropping a shout-out. Oh, man. Shout-out. We're shouting out this week. Who out there is still unsigned, Donkey?
A lot.
You know
of people.
what? I'm throwing a shout-out. Here's a pitch to Steelers Nation. Where's James Conner at? What's he doing? Steelers need an halfback. Steelers
gets paid.
Shout out to James Conner. Come back to Steeler Nation. We'll take an HB1 with an actual line to block for him. Let's go.
Oh, please, please, please. My shout-out has to go, and the reason I think I forgot is because I didn't mention this last week. My shout-out has to go to every one of those doctors who hopefully finally figured out what the hell is going on with former Pittsburgh Steeler Ryan Switzer's child. Man, that baby's just bleeding for no reason, has all sorts of crazy stuff going on. I cannot imagine being in his situation right now. But the last I heard is it seems like doctors finally figured something out and had something going really good. So I give a shout out to all the medical professionals who helped there. Because, dude, having a kid go through that has to be the scariest thing you could ever do.
Yeah, that's crazy. Good shout out.
Anyway, that about wraps it up for us. You know how to hit us up. Feel free to leave a comment on the YouTube, on the Twitch, on my Twitter, email me, do whatever the hell you want. You can reach me at Viking Donkey if you're on Xbox, Viking_Donkey for Twitch, The Daily Dose of Donkey with Ginger on YouTube. I believe it's just at Viking_ or maybe Viking Donkey on Twitter. I'll get that one fixed up. I don't use Twitter very often, so I'm not sure I know it 100%. And, of course, you can always reach Gingy at
Mutant Gingy on Xbox Live. We're playing Madden. We'll take some one-on-ones. Let's go.
And anyone curious, we were supposed to play Madden this week. Technical difficulties have denied that. So I'll be sure that next week you guys get to tune in for something super special. The first ever Donkey vs. Gingy Madden Throwdown.
Uh-oh. Let's go.
Oh, and you
Nice
best
shirt,
believe we're going to
Donkey.
be in a
Shout
stadium where they're going to be waving them if they got them.
That's right. Steelers Nation, wave them if you got them.